Okay, so we've played around a little bit with paragraph text. We've played a little bit with point text. Let's spend a little bit more time with point text, and then we're going to try some different stuff too. So we know the correct way and the lazy way to stroke text, which is good. Okay, those are important things if you want to do that. Knowing right from wrong is definitely important in life. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to make a little bit more point text. And I'm going to just type out point text, just like that. Now, a couple rules. Um, when you're um, going ahead and you're scaling or you're rotating, you want to be aware of maybe things like holding down the shift key. Okay, because if you don't, then what's going to happen is you're going to scale this thing and you're going to scale this all kind of out of whack. And people do this to text all the time. They vertically or they horizontally scale it. And that's not something that you want to do. I've got a lot of palettes open, so I'm going to start closing them down. And we're going to take a close look at this character palette. Now, you may only see this part. So we're going to click on here and I'm going to show options. I have all these other tools down here. And what I have is I have a vertical and a horizontal scale. So right now this is at 33.9%. And man, that just looks bad. And here's the thing. This is a font face, okay, or a typeface. Treat it like your face, all right? So we never really think much of text when we stretch it. But if you think about it like it's a face, maybe you won't do it as much. That's always the way I think about it, right? Is that this is somebody's face. It's a font face, obviously. It's not a real face. But this is what that text was intended to look like. It was not intended to look like that. Okay? So please respect that in that manner. Now, I'd like to point out a few things about this. So we talked in, you saw in that in your reading and also in your that lecture that we have what's known as a baseline, and we have all this, all our letter forms hit that baseline at one point or another, and they kind of stop there. These are descenders, okay, and the ones that go up like B's are ascenders. Well, we have this little thing right here called baseline shift. Now, if I go ahead and I start to use that, watch, this is just going to grow and get taller. So it doesn't do much at all when I'm working with one whole piece of text. But check this out. If I highlight my letter here, like the P in point text, and I go ahead and I utilize baseline shift, I could go ahead and I can make that larger, or I shouldn't say larger, but taller or shorter than the baseline. So I can go ahead and modify this. So if you've ever seen like a logo or a brand or some sort of text where like the text kind of seems like jumbled, well, that's being done simply by just messing around with the baseline shift. Okay, so that's pretty much a normal thing you'll see. Now over here we see this other thing called character rotation. I like to call this poor man's italic. Now this is what italic font looks like, okay? It is actually a real different font. It's a real different design. Microsoft Word italic is just like a filter that basically just turns it on its side. But this is real italic. So let's go back to regular and let's come and do this character rotation. This essentially is poor man's italic. It literally rotates the character. I have used Illustrator for going on 20 years now. And I find myself reflecting back on tools and wondering what the hell are they for. And the thing is sometimes I don't really have a good reason, and this is one of those ones where I guess I don't really have a good reason. I just don't know why we would go ahead and we would rotate all of these things like this. Not unless we're, I guess, like making like some sort of movie or something like this. But in all honesty, it's just not something that we would normally do or that you would normally see. And I'm just going to rotate it all the way around to 360 or 0 because it's the same field. So the thing is that some stuff you just ignore. Character rotation, you're going to ignore. We have the ability to make all caps simply by clicking this little button. We have the ability to create small caps, which is going to be a big cap, a very large capital P, and then the other letters are going to be capital, but they're just going to be smaller. Okay. Actually, no, that wasn't a large capital P because it was a lowercase. They're all lowercase p's. We have the ability to create superscript, subscript and superscript. So superscript is looks like this. Go ahead. I'm going to grab the oint text, and there we are. It goes above the P. So you see that a lot of times in like formulas, like 5 squared, and then subscript. We're going to grab that part down here again, and it's going to go below. Now let's go ahead and let's do it for real, because when we see it in the correct context, it's going to look correct. So let's say 5 squared. Okay. Right now it looks like 52, but watch. When I go ahead and I grab the 2 and I put it into superscript, and there we are. So now we know that that's a mathematical formula, that is 5 squared, right? And in the same token, if I go ahead and say 20 ND, well, we know that means the 22nd. Maybe like if we're talking about a date. But if I highlight the ND and I click this is subscript. Then it's going to put it way down below. That seems a little odd, right? And yeah, it sort of is. So every now and then, when I'm in this situation, this is where I'll go ahead and I'll use baseline shift to work out a little bit better. Okay? And there we are. Now, let's go ahead and let's type out point text again. And what I have going on here is underlines. I can literally underline text, just like you do in Microsoft Word. Wow, amazing, right? No. Okay? Here's the thing, folks. Don't underline text in my class, okay? In fact, don't underline text in Illustrator. You have a whole software of lines. If you want to underline text, use the freaking line segment tool and underline text. While I don't think underline text is extremely, useful, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it so I can create things like, rounded caps and like, increased weight or like dashed lines or something like that. And most importantly, when I have a descender like a P, I'm not going to put the line going through it. And check out what it does when we just let the computer do it for us. Bam, the line goes right through there. And you know what? That looks stupid. So don't do that, okay? And it looks almost as dumb as strike-through text. Why is that there? Again, I don't know. There's a lot of times where I have to say that about Adobe products. I don't know. I don't understand why it's there. Again, this is not a editing software. This is not a software where we're going to write a book in. This is not a software where I'm going to send something to an editor and they're going to cross off a bunch of the things that I wrote. So they're simply in there because those are what we call traditional text editing tools. You can ignore them, all right? In fact, I really want you to ignore most of them, okay? I want you to instead spend time with point size and leading and tracking and kerning. The top 4. So the ones where, we can hide the options. We don't need the other ones, really. But these top 4 we really, really, really got to focus on. Now, let's try a couple other things, right? Some silly stuff, right? Some stuff that is just going to plainly make sense. You want to think about contrast when we're creating text. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type out the title of one of my wife's favorite movies, Love Actually. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie, and what I can tell you about Love Actually is this: it's got a really good brand title. Okay, it's got a really good title treatment, and all it is these 2 words, Love Actually, and they're literally put together like this in like one, kind of like a line of text, like it's one word, like Love Actually, right? And they have a sans serif text. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's Helvetica. If you know the names of your fonts, you can type them out there, and then you can find them a lot easier. Yep, that looks about right, okay? And I want to say that it's Helvetica, not light oblique, but light. Yep, that's looking even more right. And watch. I'm going to highlight the word love and I'm going to make it red. And I'm going to have, actually, I'm going to keep it black, but I'm going to make it bold. And I'll make this a little bit smaller. And I want the letters to come a little closer, so I want to do tracking. So here is a fun technique. If I hold down the Option key and I use the left and right arrows, I'm going to go ahead and do some tracking. So the left arrow, Option in the left arrow, negative, Option in the right arrow, positive tracking. Okay? And now that I look at this, I'm going to myself, that's wrong. Because I want to say that if I think of the actual title of the movie, it looks like that. I'm pretty sure that's it. And I can't tell you how many times in Hollywood you see this exact treatment. You see the same font. Hell, it's the same line of text. It's just let's do like a low contrast one and let's do a high contrast one and let's just change our our colors, and that works out. We also see things like this all the time. This is definitely not the correct font, so all of you fanboys out there, please don't get mad at me, right? But we see this. And by the way, I shouldn't call anybody fanboys because I'm a giant Star Wars nerd. So Star Wars, okay? Okay, again, I know it's not the right one, so don't get mad. Here we are, Star Wars. And I'm just going to go ahead and type out The Force Awakens. Okay, so check this out. For starters, I just hit return. So there is a huge letting issue going on here. So I'm going to hit auto letting, and it's going to get a lot closer. This is going to be 20% of whatever my point size was. I'm going to go into my paragraph tab, and I'm just going to center this. Okay, and I can do that up here too. And that way it's just going to center, right? And, just want to center it. And then I need to go ahead and I need to experiment a little bit more. So I'm going to grab this type here, okay, The Force Awakens. And I'm going to make that a tad smaller, okay, because, really Star Wars is what sells. In fact, I'm going to make Star Wars really friggin' big. Bam, Star Wars, The Force Awakens. Okay. Again, I know it's not the right font. Don't skewer me, fanboys and fangirls. Now, what I want to do is I want to play around a little bit, though, with letting. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Option key, and this time I'm going to use the up and down arrows. So the up arrow is going to make the letting smaller. The down arrow is going to make it larger. I want it smaller because I want this closer to it. Now, check this out. I'm going to grab The Force Awakens again. Okay? I just wanted The Force Awakens. I don't want the Star or the Wars. Okay? I'm going to hold down the Option key and move it to the right. And this is a super common thing that we see all the time, is simply this. And I want that to be bold. I'm going to make Star Wars. I'm going to make that one light. Okay? And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just trying to make Star Wars and The Force Awakens, I want them to hold about the same amount of visual weight. And I did it, even though that this is light and this is bold, they really do hold the same amount of visual weight because Star Wars is so large, and then The Force Awakens, it's letter forms have been widened out from one another. There's all that space in there between there, and it's a bold font. I can take it one step further. I can even apply color. Okay, color is your friend. Okay, always remember that. And there we go. Star Wars, The Force Awakens. Now, again, that's not the title treatment. I'm well aware of it, but it does kind of work. I think I can even make it work better if I maybe use a different font. So if I use Helvetica New, that's got a super light one, like a thin or an ultralight. And There, that causes even more contrast. So you want to think about contrast and how you can build it and how fonts are going to work together really well with said contrast. And you want to make sure you're utilizing leading and you're utilizing tracking. What about kerning? Okay, so okay, like let's say the S and the T and the T and the A, they have some nice spacing, but the A and the R, that could use a little bit more. Okay, so let's click in here between the A and the R, right? And we'll do our whole trick again. We'll hold down the Option key and we'll tap to the right arrow and check it out. It spreads it out. The left arrow makes it get closer to one another. Okay, so this trick can work for everything. In fact, though, now that I look at this, I totally want this to get nice and tight. Almost like it's touching. Again, just trying to create that visual contrast. And when I look at that, I'm like, wow, that sucks. It really does not look good. So I'm going to highlight it one more time. And I'm going to say kerning is 0. And then I'll take all that bad kerning I just did away. So that's kind of nice. So I can kind of like start over if necessary. One of the things that you need to take away from this and when you're working with text in general is that if you do something and you look at it and it sucks, don't save it and come back to it tomorrow. And don't bother your best friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, your anybody, the person next to you. Trust your gut. If it makes you just uneasy looking at it, then select it and tap delete, because you know what, I'm a big Star Wars fan and that did not work, so I went ahead and I got rid of it. But yeah, trust your gut. If it doesn't look good, just asking somebody if it looks good isn't going to change that at all. So please think about that a little bit as you're creating this, all these different text effects. When we come back, we're going to take a look at actual text effects, and you're going to see that there's some fun stuff that we can do. Thank you.